Hey guys, welcome back to Panda Boop Creates, where we are a community of crafters. Today we are going to be talking about Cricut Infusible Ink, both the pens and the sheets, and comparing the two. So let's get started. First of all, as you can see in my beautiful photo here, there are plenty of bases that you can buy with the Cricut brand. So they have shirts, tote bags, there's pillowcases, there's makeup cases, there's baby bodysuits, there's tons of what they call blanks for infusible ink. Doesn't mean that you have to buy these to use infusible ink. You just need material that is 100% polyester. That's what works best for infusible ink. If you have cotton or something, it's not that it necessarily wouldn't work, but it wouldn't show up as nicely. So they can't guarantee that it'll look nice, so they want you to stick with their brand. Obviously, they want you to buy their blanks because they make more money that way, but you can have just 100% polyester and it should work perfectly fine. So, why would you use infusible ink over heat transfer vinyl? Infusible ink actually seeps into the fabric. So, if you've ever seen those shirts that is raised when you touch it, those are your heat transfer vinyl. But then the shirts that you touch and it just feels like a shirt, but it clearly has a picture on it, that's the infusible ink. So you will never have that raised bump. It will never peel off. It could potentially fade over time, but it will never crack and peel like you would with your vinyl. So it's definitely nicer in the long run and definitely more higher quality, quote unquote. Especially if you have like a business or trying to start a business, I would go for the infusible ink over the heat transfer vinyl. You're more likely to have less complaints in the future. All right, so here are the pens. The pens will draw a photo or write anything that you want, but they will not fill it in. So if you look at my photo here, it drew the outline of all of this, but I had to color it in. So from far away, you might not be able to see my scribble marks, but from up close, you can kind of see the scribble marks of me trying to color this in by myself. It doesn't show up too badly when you put it on the shirt, but you definitely still see it in some places. So the pens are more meant for if you have something like this, like my blanket here, where it's just writing. But even this, I went over a few times to make it a little thicker because it didn't look thick enough to be able to actually see it properly on a blanket, and I wanted to make it a little thicker. But say you wanted it to be nice and thin, a pen would obviously be better. It's easier. To cut this would be a pain, but to write it is a lot easier. So that's when you'd kind of use the pens over the sheets, is if you want something a little more delicate, a little more harder to cut. And then this is just an example of one of the sheets that I have, a nice pretty rose colored sheet. It looks faded, but when you put it on the material, it will turn this vibrant color. So in my picture here, you can actually see the rose colored infusible ink sheet with the letters, and you can see that it's a lot brighter than that faded rose sheet originally. So with this picture, I used infusible ink sheets. It was just solid color. I wanted it to be a little thicker and I didn't want to have to go over it a couple of times like I did with the Morgan writing. So I decided to use the sheets and I think it turned out a lot better because then it was the thickness that I wanted. It looked clean. It didn't look like I wrote it myself. The only problem was, as you can see in that left corner, that I didn't quite get it perfect. I did not put enough pressure down, so it was a little fainter in the corner than it was for the rest of it. But that's what you get when you do it yourself, right? Another difference between the sheets and the pens is that the sheets will come with patterns and the pens obviously do not. The pens come in a variety of colors. I think there's about 24 of them. But with the sheets, you can have rose pattern, You can have a checkered pattern. You can have all sorts of patterns, whereas the pens are obviously just the one colors. So for instance, the onesie that I did where it has the multicolored words, that would be very hard to do with pens. It would take forever and not look nearly as nice, probably. So that's definitely where the sheets come in handy. And in terms of heating and applying it to the material, they are the exact same thing. As you can see here, it's the same temperature, the same time, the same pressure, the same peel. Everything is the same. There's not any differences that way. It's literally that one is cut and one is a pen. That's about it. So, like I said, I recommend Infusible Ink sheets over heat transfer vinyl just because I think that it looks nicer on a shirt. It won't crack or peel over time. And you still get those patterns that you could get with heat transfer vinyl. You can even get solid colors like you could get with heat transfer vinyl. There are less options, unfortunately, with Infusible Ink sheets in terms of patterns and colors. So if you really wanted your glitter blue, then obviously go with heat transfer vinyl over the Infusible Ink. But I would recommend trying to stick with Infusible Ink sheets if you can. I know they're more expensive, they're less likely to go on sale, but I definitely think they work better and stay nicer longer. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Have you used heat transfer vinyl and Infusible Ink sheets and the pens? Which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.